Hey guys, this is Paul, and this is another episode of Game Dev Paradise. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? Today, I want to try something pretty challenging, at least in my opinion. Well, I haven't done this before, but what I want to do is I want to document and narrate my process of adding a scripted mission to the game. So from start to finish, the idea phase, the implementation phase, the testing phase, the polish phase, things like that. So this usually takes me about 3 days, which is a crazy amount of time in my opinion. I wish I could really cut this down. Um, but irregardless, the video won't be 3 days. I'll cut out parts. I'll cut out parts that are me just sitting here thinking or things like that. So I'll try to condense it. All right, so to back up, what is a scripted mission? Just to give some background, well, Void Destroyer 2 has currently two types of missions. Ones which are just like repeating auto-generated missions. They're missions that live in code. So if we look at the overworld code, we look at the courier mission type, whoops, courier. These missions are just these are sort of hard-coded added with some random elements. They exist sort of in code here, set up courier missions, they're kind of defined here. They're pretty, things tend to always happen the same way in sort of hard-coded repeating missions where usually there's an objective. It's pretty simple. Usually it involves some combat or grabbing an object or destroying something or evading combat or going from point A to point B or escorting a ship. So a coded mission might be a courier, escort, those type of missions. These repeat and include random elements. So potentially you could have 2 enemies, 3 enemies, 5 enemies, capital ships coming after you, friendlies, things like that. You can also change the difficulty of these. Now, as far as a scripted mission, scripted missions are defined via these mission scripts. So if we look here, if we look at this gate protocol mission right here, this is it's not hard coded, but it's coded. It's defined outside of the executable. I have like the mission name here, the description, the object ID of the mission, just so it's unique, the faction ID, where it takes place, how much money the player is going to get, and I can just change these values to alter this mission. Other definitions here, and here is actually where the mission takes place. The first thing that happens is I run these bunch of triggers. I turn off the overworld. I stop any music that might be playing. I create these ships here. I do all kinds of things. Then there's like objectives, like for example, this shuttle. This objective is just a timer. It just waits for 15 seconds to pass. It might test for other things, like for example, if something is destroyed, this thing called shuttle, then this is actually a fail objective, and it'll go to the key 5000. It'll jump to another section of this. Also has triggers, like for example here, showing some text on the screen. There's also dialogue. Defines who is talking, what their name is, what the content of their talking is, like this. So this is a scripted mission. So there's currently 18 of these, and I want to add another one. for the bounty hunter faction. I only have 2 for the bounty hunter faction. I want another one. So let's go through that process. All right, so how do I do this? The first step is sort of the idea phase, you know? So I tend to have an idea of which faction this is going to be for. It's going to be for the Pride faction, the Bounty Hunter faction. And then I know this mission is going to involve a gunship. And the rest I kind of have to fill in the blanks. So the thing I ask myself is like, what kind of a mission would fit this faction? So for example, the military wouldn't ask you, the player, to destroy something because that's the military's job. You know, the military is not going to pay somebody to blow something up. That's their job. You know, just like the bounty hunters aren't going to pay the player to commit crimes. You know, that's not what the bounty hunters are about. So the bounty hunters are usually about punishing criminals to get paid, right? And of course, in Void Destroyer 2, punishment is almost always lethal. So we're going to say kill criminals to get paid. Criminals in Void Destroyer 2 tend to be pirates. So now we sort of have this idea of what bounty hunter faction missions would tend to involve, and they're usually about killing a pirate. So the next thing is the struggle thing. You know, the big struggle for these missions, for me anyway, is to come up with some unique idea, unique setting, unique challenge, unique ships. This is what I'm trying to figure out, you know. So unique settings are sometimes kind of easier, sometimes kind of harder, but I haven't used an asteroid field in a while, so we can say unique setting is an asteroid field. Unique idea, something that I was thinking about is player objective. It's kind of the same thing. What's the player objective here? We already said to kill pirates, but that's not very unique. So what we want is sort of this unique idea, which also is basically a unique challenge in this case. So the player objective is kill a pirate. Kill a pirate surrounded by other pirates. So the idea and the challenge is kind of the same. Basically, there's a big pirate presence and the player must destroy a particular pirate, you know. So say for example 10 versus 1. You know, those odds are pretty bad against the player, right? So the challenge here and the challenge for me is I have to ask myself, how do I balance this? Well, the player is in a gunship. The target is also in a gunship, just to kind of make it fair. Maybe. Or a corvette. Bit more challenging, right? Players in a gunship, target is also in a gunship, or maybe a corvette. These maybes tend to be stuff that I can test and play test and things like that. So how to balance this is that the other ships are large ships, easier to avoid for a gunship, and smaller ships, which is easy to kill for a gunship. So what I want to do here is basically have a sort of a setting with potentially the player destroys these ships on the way to the challenge. And the other way I can do the balancing of challenges is send ships at the player in smaller waves. So while overall there's a bunch of ships, um, the player doesn't have to tangle with them constantly. Or I can send in a rival pirate faction, and potentially the challenge is that the player has to destroy the target before the rivals destroy the target. So we have a bunch of ideas here. I think we have a pretty good unique idea challenge, sort of asymmetrical warfare where player doesn't have to destroy the entire fleet of pirates, but just one particular pirate. You know, that's the one that has the bounty on. That's the player's task. You know, so the player has to sort of do a hit and run, or maybe whittle down the fighters a little bit. But the player's going to have to be kind of clever, a little bit tactical. It's going to be a little bit challenging. I might go with this idea as well. Excuse me, send in a rival faction. And then the player has to sort of quickly destroy the target. Or I could basically combine these two ideas, that too. The setting here I'm going to choose is an asteroid field. Settings are kind of difficult in space games because usually they're like, you know, asteroid fields, space stations, empty space, debris fields. Settings are kind of challenging. They're kind of repetitive. Um, so that'll be a challenge. But also, you know, in a, let's say a first-person shooter, the setting could be a cathedral, or a stadium, or a forest, or a river next to a river. You know, there's all these more interesting sort of environments. In space games, we sort of have these sorts of more spacey environments. You know, space is empty, so making it unique is a little bit more of a challenge. Unique ships. Not sure if this is really going to be the focus here. The pirates don't have quite the unique ships. But that's okay. That's okay. So the other thing I do here at this point is I open up my modeling software, which I have a bunch of ships everywhere. And I look at the pirate factions, and I kind of look and see which ship kind of strikes my fancy. So here, this is a Raptor class corvette. It's got big guns, got missile launchers, got a turret, defense turret up there. That's a potential for one of my targets here. Another ship here is this gunship. This is a Buzzard class gunship. The nice thing about this ship, in case it was a target, is that its guns are sort of awkward. So the player would be sniping at it, and this ship wouldn't be able to really defend itself too much. So this could be a really, really good target. So let's say the target is must destroy Raptor. Player has to destroy Mark Raptor. So now, what I tend to do, you know, after this sort of idea phase, we actually go to the actual process here of scripting. Alrighty. So what I do is actually I copy and paste an existing file. Just kind of easier that way for me personally. I rename it, and then I give it some name, say we're going to call it take down. Don't really like the name takedown, so what I tend to do is actually I tend to go and use Google, go to synonyms, put in takedown. What else we have? Not great. Let's see what we have for ambush. Pitfall's pretty good. Trick, not bad. Waylay is not bad. Trap. Bushwhack. I like that word, bushwhack. After I choose a word, I tend to actually go and go to the definition just to make sure it means what I want it to mean. To fight as a bushwhacker or guerrilla in the bush, right? So I like this a lot. Guerrilla warfare, right? So maybe we'll call this mission guerrilla bushwhack. Bushwhack. So an issue with this name is that it's an interesting name, I think. You know, I think it'll catch people's attention. Problem with this name is that some foreign-speaking players, people who's where English is not their first language, might not understand what these two words mean. They might actually look them up. Somebody younger might not even understand. An English speaker that's younger might not understand. They might look these words up and then they learn something new. So not bad, right? All right. So we copied and pasted this. So this has all the info of the old mission here. So we got to change that. So this object ID is now Pride 2. This is good. The Pride. Let's make this a gunship. Mission rank required. We're gonna say Pride 5. We might change this in the future. All these things are okay. Solo enforced. Faction ship required. Excuse me. So the bounty hunter faction, it requires the player to use their ships. Let's update this to 100,000. Bounty hunters pay a lot. And now let's think of a place where we could set this. So we set an asteroid field. What we want to do is, this is a little map software, graphing software I use. We're going to choose a spot for this location. I'm just going to get rid of some of these guys. So here's a bounty hunting base. And here's a bounty hunting base. Here's some pirate bases, things like that. So let's just kind of check these guys. And the location will be somewhere in the beggar territory. That's the name of this faction. Let's say here. Close to this base, close to that base. Let's say it's going to be here. So let's go ahead and write that area down. Just doing that off screen. So the location is here. Here's our location. Usually what I do is, because I do so much copy and pasting, I'm just going to copy and paste this mission location type, mission location position, and replace this mission location. Put that in. All right, so we have the really basics to sort of begin. What I want to begin first is by creating a setting. going to be an asteroid field. And the nice thing about asteroid fields is there usually are mining ships. And so the idea is that, or the idea that's forming in my head is that these pirates are harassing miners in an asteroid field. Player's objective is to destroy particular pirate, right? So there's a reason why these pirates are there in this asteroid field. That's because they're harassing miners. So I always like to have reasons for these things. You know, why is this happening in the terms of the game world? I really like that, where missions sort of make sense. If you kind of take a little moment to analyze it, if everything makes sense, I'm really happy about that. I don't really need this in particular, but I think it just kind of adds to it. Some players might not pick it up, whether it's through my fault, or they just don't care, or maybe I'm just too vague, or it's not strong enough an idea. Doesn't really matter to me. I hope that they do, you know, but it's not the end of the world if they don't. But basically, this is the setting that I want. An asteroid field, there's pirates, they're harassing miners for ransom, that sort of thing. Okay, so let's build up an asteroid field. So I'm actually going to turn on Void Destroyer 2. And I'm going to go into the simulator, which also is sort of a map editor. And I created this tool both for players and for myself. I'm just going to quickly draw up an asteroid field here. All right. Sort of a little, not too big of an asteroid field. And the really nice thing about having a setting is that it also lets there be some sort of a sense of movement. You know, if you have just ships in empty space with no sort of frame of references, it's hard for the player to get an idea of a sense of movement when we're just going through it. So let's go ahead. Let's add a player ship to this, so we can see how it looks. It looks fine. Might need a little more spacing between the rocks. So let's do that. Let's take a look. We're going to select everything here. I'm going to move apart. Move everything apart. Yeah, I think that might be you can manually move some stuff apart too. Just some objects that are a little too close together, potentially. I think that's good. Let's take a look. Looks like things are a little too flat. Kind of depends on the perspective too, right? Yeah, things look pretty decent. Let's see. Yeah, little field, but perfectly all right. So let's go ahead. Let's add some mining ships. And we said unique setting, right? Unique ships, unique setting. So actually, let's add some mining ships. All right, let's see. I'm actually kind of blanking on the ship names. I need to focus a little bit. Geb. Looking for a Geb. Here we go. Here's a Geb. So this Geb. Geb is like an Egyptian god, by the way, in case you're curious where I come up with these names. So this Geb is going to be mining an asteroid right here. This other guy is going to be mining one here. All right. Let's take a look how that looks. Looks good to me. These guys are going to be mining. Pirates are gonna appear, or actually already probably be there. The player shows up, and then the player is sort of left with the task of attacking. All right, so we can exit out of the game. And there we go. And over here in the game, I have a directory that's called custom battle, last battle autosave right here. Don't need any of this. Let's find our Gebs. Can give it a little bit better name. There we go. All right, so we have the basis of our map. So I'll work a little bit more on this map, adding pirate ships, things like that. I'll do it off screen, not to bore you guys. And we'll pick this up when I'm ready to start testing the initial steps. Alrighty, so I've done some work on the map file. Here, what it looks like. Just a few little edits, just giving stuff proper names so I can reference them later, things like that. According to the naming scheme. So anytime I create an object, I want to give it a proper name. So it doesn't conflict with any other name, which would cause a crash. And so I can sort of understand what it is later. All right, so if we look at our mission file again, we now have this link to the world file, Pride02 Gorilla Bushwhack world file, which is this file here. That's where all those asteroids and stuff is. So now what we move on to is sort of the really initial testing phase. So I'm going to load up the game, and I'm going to create a save file in the game that will allow me to test the setting. So usually what I do is I just load up a save file where I'm in a base or a ship nearby. Let's see. Usually I have quite a lot of save files here, various bugs, issues, things I'm testing, including missions. Here's some missions, for example. Let's see. We're looking for a bounty hunting save file. There's a few ways around this. Here we go. Well, no, not really. Shark Docked. You don't want to own it. All right, that's close enough though. All right, so we're gonna load up the save file. Then we're gonna edit it to work better for us. So we're gonna buy a Pilar. So this mission is for a gunship. So we're gonna go ahead and assume that the player has a gunship, and because this mission is locked to faction ships, we're pretty sure that they're gonna have this ship. I mean, they could have a heavy fighter, but we're just gonna assume that the player is gonna have a gunship here. So I'm gonna buy that. Now we're gonna equip it. Let's see. Usually I want the shield generator. I also want a front energy barrier, rapid repair. I also want armor plating. Because I like speed, I'm going to add an engine optimization. and also gravity drive trigger. So this is kind of a problem area here, because the player could choose different upgrades, which could significantly make the mission harder or easier or whatnot. Now, me knowing all the best upgrades or having a very strong opinion about the best upgrades could be an issue. You know, in regards to a player not choosing these upgrades or maybe not even knowing that they exist. Alrighty, so now what I do is I hit save, call this the bushwhack mission save file, and then I go ahead and hop in here. Actually, I probably don't even need to do that, do I? No. Okay, so now when I hit the mission list, I see Gorilla Bushwhack. Going to go ahead and accept this mission. Undock. There's my gunship leading the shark. All right. Let's see, where's the mission location? There it is. Alrighty, so I'm gonna basically set up this save so I can easily keep testing the mission. Gonna go towards it and then hit save right before I get there. That's probably close enough, so I'm going to hit save. There we go. So now I have a good save file to keep testing this mission. Alright, so that's pretty much what the player is going to see when they initially come across this scene. Looks good to me, you know, a little bit of an asteroid field, 2 mining ships. They're not mining at the moment, so I'm going to have to tweak that. I'm also going to have to tell these pirates not to actually attack them. Do the initial dialogue, things like that, just to kind of get that. You know, right now this is just the very first steps towards setting up a mission, just to kind of see basically what happens, how fast the player might die, how feasible it is. Looks like it's pretty feasible. I'm taking some damage, but I'm not like horribly dying. Looks like I can evade a little bit. Pilar is pretty hefty ship. It's also very nicely armored. So this looks like this might work pretty well. I might actually need to increase the number of enemy ships. Alrighty, so that's the very first steps towards designing a mission. Alrighty, so let's add some actual stuff to the mission. What we want to do is first, we want to make sure that those pirates don't destroy those civilians. So, as usual, what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab some other code. Not code, some other little scripting from a different mission. Let's see, corporate retreat. I'm going to search on the word ransom. Here it is. Copy this. Here I'm going to do a pre-trigger. Pre-triggers happen before the objective. Post-triggers happen after the objective. Here's the objective, it's time. I'm going to set this to like 5 seconds. But this pre-trigger is, we're going to pay ransom. 2 beggars. Who's going to pay the ransom? It's going to be this first Geb and the second Geb. Now, usually I forget if, for example, I add support for 2 in one trigger, for two names in one trigger, so I just take a look at my code here. Search for pay ransom, and it's only one. So I'm gonna change this. Ransom payers. Ransom payers, and then this is going to be a get vector string. So this piece of code reads this file, looks at this pre-trigger, looks at this ransom payer, and reads these values in. So here, ransom payer, get vector string, while I'm going to do a loop. Ransom payers. All right. So now we added a little bit of code to make sure that we can have two or more entries here in our script. So as you can see, while doing the scripting, while doing a mission, there's usually times where I do a little bit of tweaking in the code. It looks like we have an error somewhere. We need to make this a vector. A vector is a container of multiple items. In this case, of strings. Strings are basically just text items, like here. This is a string. This is a string. Actually, all these things are basically strings, except this one is a number. To compare. So let's take a look at that. Let's compile. And now, after this compiles, these guys will no longer be attacked. So we're sort of setting the narrative stage of this mission. Let's do a quick test. Actually, one of my flaws, and one of the reasons why this takes so long, is I do frequent tests of these missions. Every little change I test. So that takes a little bit of time. As you can see right now, I'm just not really doing anything. I'm just waiting to do the test. But at the same time, often these tests will inspire me to do something else. If the test is unsuccessful and it results in something goofy, it might actually inspire me to create something different. There we go. There's a bit of downtime, like loading the save file and things like that. But now when we jump in, these pirates should not be attacking these transport ships. And they're not, which is great. I also want these transport ships to start mining these asteroids. Oh, wait a minute, what's going on? Why are you guys shooting them? You should not be doing this. That was the whole point here. And that's because, let's see, ransom payer, beggar faction. Why are you guys attacking? Yeah, this frequently happens. Civilians, these guys are beggars. Everything looks good. All right, so that's why I said I do frequent tests. Oftentimes there's some shenanigans that I need to fix and just kind of go back and forward. All right, so those are just some little oversights. I needed to do things in a little different sequence. So let's take a look. I fixed that up. I also told the mining ships to target those asteroids to begin mining. Here we go. So now these guys are not attacking our poor defenseless mining ships. And our mining ships are doing the mining there, which is pretty cool. There we go. There's the other guy. Pirates are not attacking. All right, so we've done the very, very basic steps. Let's see. The other thing I want to do is I want to add a bit of dialogue. And I want to add a little bit of dialogue here. And again, I'm just looking at another section of a different script that I can just copy and paste here. So after about 5 seconds, the beggar guys, the beggar pirates, are going to talk to the other ships. So let's just choose a portrait for the dialogue. How about this fellow 01? Choose that guy. I'm gonna go to characters, beggar generic 01. He's gonna be doing the talking. He's gonna tell the civilians pleasure doing business with you. You know, so we're whatchamacallit, we're hinting at a transaction between the pirates and the civilians. That transaction would have been probably monetary. And then in about another 5 seconds, we can have the civilians do something. Next time, ask before shooting. Next time, we'd appreciate you asking with words rather than bullets. Something like that. Next time, please, we'd appreciate you asking with words rather than bullets. Right, so it's just kind of setting the stage for pirates and civilians and things like that. So let's grab a civilian portrait. Civilian. Let's go with 2. There we go. Let's go ahead and see how that plays. Actually, there we go. So we're setting the stage. We're kind of painting the scene here. We're not doing a whole lot. We're just trying to hint at stuff. We're not like directly saying it. Hopefully the player doesn't immediately like rush in and start attacking or whatever, and then miss the dialogue. But some players do that. Some players just really ignore things. In fact, I catch myself doing the same thing. There it is. Pleasure doing business with you. There we go. Civilian kind of responded. So there's a chance that the player might miss this, but hopefully initially the player like flies in, just kind of looks at what's going on, and things like that. So for this to work, we need to have like sort of a better description here for the mission that hopefully again the player reads. We've learned the location of the high priority target. Prove the pride's strength by eliminating it. Set this up for the next line. So we want to do a brief description that tells us what's going on here. We've learned the location of the high priority bounty. It is a corvette class ship, often traveling in the pirate fleet. Prove the pride's strength by eliminating it. Whoops, what happened there? Some buttons there. Even when surrounded by allies. So we're setting the stage that the player is going to go in. The player has to take out this target, light Corvette class ship by allies. We're just kind of setting the stage. So a observant player will hopefully understand what we're trying to say. That there's one target, and we'll keep sort of hammering that. We'll keep kind of hammering that. So let's take a look at how that looks. Let's see. Let's load up a save where the player is docked at a bounty hunter base. Guerrilla Bushwhack. We've learned the location of a high priority bounty. It's a light Corvette class ship, often traveling in a pirate fleet. Prove the pride's strength by eliminating it, even when surrounded by allies. So I want to kind of make it more clear that the player is going to be alone. Your mission is to prove the pride's strength, eliminate the target despite even though it is surrounded. Yeah, so sometimes it takes me a while to just kind of come up with these descriptions. I edit these frequently, even though they're so small. I kind of want to keep them short, to the point, and in sort of in character of the faction. So yeah, I'll cut this off now, and then I'll continue kind of adding scripts. We'll pick this up when the mission is a little bit more advanced. But I hope you get the basic idea of how this goes. And we'll pick this up in a little bit. Alrighty, we've done some little more modifications. Let's go ahead, let's load up. Let's take a look. So we're flying in. There's the dialogue that we set up before. There's the civilian response. Now we're going to get another dialogue. Now this dialogue pops up, sort of pauses the gameplay. This is sort of more dialogue, so I can't really easily have it running while the player is playing. But here's this person called Heller. I'll probably change this portrait because I used this portrait in the previous mission actually. So I'll change this portrait. I sort of randomly choose these names. The names are just for sort of flavor, things like that. So this person is saying target confirmed, marking it on your HUD. You only need to eliminate the target. How you deal with the rest is your call. So again, we're sort of reinforcing that the player only needs to destroy one ship, and that's the main challenge. You know, the other ships are sort of the obstacle for the player. There's a target. Target's marked. Let's see how this plays. I'm going to try to go in. I'm just going to try to destroy the target. There's our missiles firing. There's a ship shooting at us. Looks like the missiles hit us. So our shields are down already. I'm going to use my forward barrier to start firing at this ship. So I'm just going to basically try to use evasion. See how that gets me. Fly away a little bit. This ship is now like, well, it was actually, yeah, it's shooting at me. So got all these small fighters engaging me. These bigger ships are sort of using their turrets to attack me. They're not really engaging me there. So far I'm surviving pretty well. Oh, I just took a lot of hits there. Yeah, so a better strategy might be for me to just take out the fighters first. But I'm probably just gonna leave this up to the player. But my most important thing to do is to make sure that this mission is doable. That's my number one thing. So let's go ahead, let's load this up again. And this time I'm gonna go after the fighters first. I should be able to clear those out really fast. And when the fighters are cleared, I should be able to survive the rest pretty well. I'll be able to dodge the other stuff pretty well. Get that other dialogue. There it is. Getting attacked by missiles. My shields are already down. Turn on my barrier here. And the fighters engaging. It's a bit of a light fighter, so it's actually kind of hard to hit. So I took one out. Smacked into it. This guy's just spinning out of control. You can't really maneuver a lot. That's 2 down. Doing pretty well. I'm at 60%, but here's the third one. Whoops. There's the third one. Got some more incoming missiles. This guy's at 50. There we go. Alright, so all the fighters are dead. What I'll probably do is I'll probably script an event. If the fighters are dead, I'll probably have the pirate fleet saying something. Actually, there's one fighter there left. So I'm using the rapid repair ability. That's boosting my health here at the cost of movement and taking more damage. So it's a bit of a strategic ability. Alright, so this fighter is now dead. That's cool. And now I can hopefully focus on my main target. These other ships, that will take quite a long time for me to destroy them. Plus, it doesn't really make a lot of sense for me to destroy them since they're since my target is weaker than they are, so I can just focus on my target. So I'm just trying to dodge and weave to avoid the fire there. I'm more maneuverable than these other ships. The big issue is the missiles that they shoot. And now this guy, I can actually like fly backwards and probably draw him away. Whoops. There's my shield again, so I don't have to be as careful. But I think the basics are really done. This is going to be a pretty simple mission. I might just kind of spice it up. I might have like a patrolling fighters somewhere, just to make this a little more interesting. This ship is almost dead, but it's actually moving backwards, so it's actually kind of not helping me a lot in trying to angle myself too well. But it's almost dead, so we should be good here. There we go. So this guy's dead. So the mission is very doable. I'm at 33%. That's good stuff. I'm pretty happy about that. I can just disengage now. I got my money. I got my higher rank, you know. And I think it was pretty satisfying. It wasn't super challenging, but I think it's a good challenge. It's pretty unique where you're by yourself. You have to sort of come up with a strategy, execute it, see how well it works, that sort of thing. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to spice up this mission a little bit more. I'll probably add some more fighters, but away from the fleet. I'll probably add something that says, "Hey, he killed our fighters." Blah blah blah. You know. Um, I might even. Um, yeah, I really wish I could introduce a rival pirate faction to this, but I don't know how I could really squeeze it in there believably. Um, so I might not really bother with that. Besides, it's been often where some other fleet comes in and sort of saves the player. That happened quite a bunch of times. So it's a bit of a cliche at this point. So I'm pretty happy with this. But let's continue. Let's keep refining it. Let's keep making it more interesting. Alrighty, so I did a few little tweaks. Let's take a look. So I'm building more of the scene. I'm adding more enemies. I'm trying to flesh out the game world a little bit more, or at least this little portion of it. So let's take a look. So I'm trying to think in terms of what happened to give the player some clues. So if we look, we see about 5 ships close to this mining ship here. And if we look even closer, we can see that the mining ship is actually on fire and that it's damaged. This is all done via the scripting. Let's see, I think it's set health. There it is. Set health 15%. So we're sort of painting this picture via this story, via sort of these pictures. We're showing that this ship is damaged, these pirate ships behind it, which is basically suggesting that these guys shot up the pirate ships, that the pirate ships shot up the independents, the miners, and then the miners paid the pirates, and that's why the pirates aren't killing them specifically. And in the larger sense, that's why the pirates are here. So it could be a bunch of reasons why the pirates are here, but it's a little asteroid field for flavor. So we added mining ships. So then we added this sort of bit of dialogue, and we kind of created the story. So then, the pirates have eyes, right? And now they're saying, "Hey, look, there's an unwelcome guest." This is triggered on a timer. And this pirate leader, whoever, he's specifically telling these other ships here, "Hey, there's some welcome guests." Now, what I've done is I've altered their AI. These are the crows here, to be search and destroy, which means then they target on a much larger distance, and they find me. I'm the only enemy here. There's no other enemy for them to attack, and then here they come. So basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make the enemy a little bit intelligent, a little bit more alive, at the same time controlling the difficulty and the pace of the mission. So, you show up and you see a bunch of pirates and then you attack the ship, you kill it. That's cool, but it kind of says like, "Oh, these pirates are dumb or they're not alive or whatever." So with a little bit of flavor, a little bit of scripting, we can kind of give them some intelligence. Basically, they notice you and they say, "Hey, look at that ship, take it out." A little bit more interesting. And these are pretty easy enemies for this gunship to take out. I don't want them to be a huge challenge for the player. These are like your Stormcrows. These are light fighters. So these are not really that difficult for the player to take out. I don't want to damage the player too much. But the other aspect of this is if the player... I'll demonstrate in a second. So as you can see, this gunship can pretty easily destroy these Stormcrows. I don't really have to worry too much about my health. It's just basically the player, kind of a power fantasy almost. The player being really, even though there's 5 of them and 1 of me, the player is really, they're not really matching the player here. And that's kind of how I want it. I just wanted to give the player a little bit of a power fantasy right here. And there's one more. Looks like that one actually got hurt by my secondary, which is launching. I didn't have to do much. My secondary of launching missile mines took care of that. So let's take a look at another aspect. So here, if the player rushes in towards the target, instead of sort of surveying the situation, if the player rushes in, what's gonna happen is, I'll show you in a second. There's that dialogue, there's the command. So if we rush in, whoops, the script will trigger those crows also to attack. So right here, it's on a timer and on a distance check. And I'm actually going to increase this to 3,000. Just because of playing this, we were a little too far away, so I'm just going to set it 3,000. I'm going to set it to 25 seconds. Yeah, that's good. So now the player not only has these ships to handle, these guys, but also these crows are going to be coming after me. Right here, this crow is targeting me. So really what I'm trying to teach the player in a sense is to take things slow, especially when they're alone. You know, as a bounty hunter, you have a powerful ship, but also you should use your mind, and especially when you're outnumbered, you should think strategically. Because now this is just a really bad situation. Those light fighters, all of a sudden, with these other ships, can do quite a lot of damage. Even though I'm still in a powerful ship, I have heavy armor. I'm just not going to win this. Well, maybe some player might actually. I don't think I'll win this. Yeah, and I don't think I could just brute force my way into this. But I really have some heavy armor on here, and I'm really taking quite a lot of hits with these missiles. Yeah, they're doing their work. So it's kind of cool. You're this sort of a big bear, and you're being swarmed by these little bees. I like that a lot. So another aspect I want to just talk about, really little thing, is to when we come in here, we now notice that these guys, the scabs, they're actually patrolling around this area here. So we actually have a potential chance of luring them out without even getting damaged too badly if we take that opportunity. So if we look here, we're just going to engage these guys. We're going to try to really quickly destroy them. There's our missiles launching. Launch our mines. There they are. Try to really focus these guys down, destroy them really fast. They're kind of fast and nimble, so they're actually a little bit of a tiny bit of a challenge there. They're dropping like the little swarm of bees that they are. And the other cool thing about giving the player the opportunity of destroying these smaller ships is that the player has played the game, and they sort of, you know, they went through tangling with these ships and having them to be a little bit of a challenge. So now that the player is just like swatting them with barely any even shield loss, the player kind of feels the difference, which I think is really cool. So let's try to lure these ships out. We're gonna try to like graze the edge and not get attacked by the other ships. The missiles are kind of incoming. There we go. These ships are like coming after me, so I can fly backwards and sort of lure them out. So giving them this patrol command, making them mobile, allows the smart player to kind of like use additional tactics. So what I'm trying to do is to give the player those kinds of opportunities if they choose to take it, or if they just want to brute force it, that's fine too. You know, because I mean repair costs aren't pricey in the game, so it doesn't really matter. It just kind of depends how much fun the player gets from one sort of tactic to another. Let's see. So this is another way to handle the mission, just kind of giving the player options. Really small things, you know, really small things, but I like them. I like them a lot. All right, so now we have these ships left, so we're kind of back in the same spot as we were before, and we can use our. Looks like we have some missiles incoming. Missiles are kind of hard to shoot down, but looks like I got them there. I can use my repair ability to kind of reset the battle. You know, that is if the player uses that ability, so this is a bit of an unknown. But I'm basically resetting the battle. I'm pretty much fully healed now. But now what I want to do is, now that all the fighters are gone, what I want to do is I want to have these ships like sort of kind of run away. You know, I want them acknowledge like, hey, our fighters are gone. This guy is kind of good. We're getting kind of nervous, so let's like leave this area. You know. So that'll be what I'll be scripting in next. So on some thoughts about this, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to move those ships. Because if I do, then the sort of challenge of trying to evade their weapons fire goes away. So now what we're really left with is adding some music. Usually I do that last. It's kind of funny, but that's how I do it. So the way that I do it is I go into the game's music folder. I turn on Audacity, which is a free piece of software, and I just kind of grab some songs in here to try to see what would fit. Yeah, it's not bad. This piece doesn't actually loop. What about this one? This one doesn't loop either. Let's look at the looping pieces. I've used this quite a lot. Let's see. Voice Shred 2 doesn't have that many music pieces yet. So that's something to work on in the future. Let's see, we got some of these combat musics. Pry loops. That's in the loop. This one's a loop, so maybe we'll just use this one. We haven't used this one in a while. Some drama. Music. Oh, I don't even have it in here. Alrighty, so I added this entry here for drama. Made it looping. And now we want to start this piece. Want to start this piece right around when these spiders attack. Right here. And also, stop the music when the mission is complete. So that's going to be right around here. Because we don't want the music to loop forever and ever, even after the player leaves the area. So let's take a look at that. Let's take a quick test. There we go. There's our new portrait. Let's see. Let's make the music louder so we can actually hear it, right? When we test. I tend to turn down the sound volume because I have YouTube playing somewhere in the background. But now there we go. Now we hear it. All right. So that's basically it. Pretty happy with this mission. It's pretty simple. It doesn't take too long. It didn't take me too long. Actually, it's about a day, including the commentary, which kind of takes a little bit longer. But bounty hunting missions should be pretty simple. You know, it shouldn't be like a great sort of mystery or drama to it. The player just, hey, is told to take out a pirate. The player does it, you know, and we got to spice it up somehow. In this case, we spice it up via having a single target, but the player has to go through about 10 fighters and evade the other ships to do it. So I might tweak this mission in the future based on feedback, things like that. What I'll also probably do is looking at this gunship. What I tend to do while I do these missions is because I tend to play a particular ship. In this case, that Pilar. If we go back to it, what I'll probably do is I'll probably look at its stats. Probably make its secondary more powerful. Let's see. That's pretty nice. I might add another row of missiles there. Or maybe I might spread them further apart. I'm not really sure. But also I think I'll change this turret. Give the player an option to add a beam turret as an upgrade. I think that'd be pretty cool. So the player will have these sorts of guns and also these beam turrets. Let's see, anything else I can think of? Because I do want this ship to be sort of beefy. Maybe I'll put an upgrade for another turret on the top. I'm not sure. I'm not sure at this point. Because I kind of want this to be sort of one of the better gunships because it is kind of exclusive. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope I shed some light how sort of mission design, scripted missions work in a video game, at least my video game, at least Void Destroyer 2. As you can see, it's sort of this process of testing, thinking, trying to come up with something unique. I think this mission is pretty simple, so it might not be a great example, but at the same time, it's a good example to show because you can kind of sort of quickly go through it. So I think I hope you guys kind of got that impression from this mission. just sort of my process of adding missions. So once again, thank you for watching. If you have any comments, feedback, questions, let me know. And I'll talk to you later.